Richard Tubb here again with another interview, and today I'm joined by Phylip Morgan, the Managing Director of the Network Buying Group. How you doing, Philip?
I'm doing superbly. You?
Yeah, very well indeed.
Good.
Well, thank you for inviting me to join you for one of your member meetings here today. I came in with some preconceptions of what the Network Buying Group and buying groups in general are. I thought they were all about maybe just driving down costs on products and services that you buy from vendors, but clearly it's a lot more than that. So I will go into why, my impressions of the group, but perhaps if you give us a little bit of background for people who are not aware of the Network Group, what it is, what they do and what it brings for the members.
So, the Network Buying Group ceased to be a buying group. Around 2010, actually, we went through a whole branding exercise, and Network Group has been going since 1994, and it's been called NBG for, I don't know, centuries, millennia, really. So what happened in 2010 specifically is there was a need from a lot of our resellers to go away from purchasing. I mean, at the end of the day, you and I know, Richard, it's only so far down the food chain you can push the price of something. Take this glass, yes. Okay? If we import it from China, we can reduce it down so far. So is it better for somebody running a small business to focus all their energy of trying to buy that more cheaply and only go so far and you hit the law of diminishing returns? Or is it better for us to help each other, small businesses, to sell more of the glasses so we can make more money that way? So that's what we did. So we are not a buying group anymore. Part of what we do is procurement and the large contracts that we've got with vendors that are very, very meaningful. But the two major areas of our business that most people are involved in our community now are because of the relationships and the collaboration. So you've just experienced one of 5 events that we hold annually. And the other area of our business is the marketing support that we give the resellers to grow in particular aspects of their business in certain categories or markets they want to execute in.
Got it. And so I said about my preconception of what the group was, and that's radically changed today.
Okay.
Based on what I've seen, the sense of community spirit from the people who are in attendance here, IT solution providers. Tell me a little bit about the type of members that you have in the business, because it's not just IT solution providers, you've also got a retail aspect of things as well, haven't you?
That's right. So I'm tasked with growing the group at the moment. So we're just over 50 IT resellers at the moment. Half of them are retailers, so they have either a bricks and mortar or an online model, and they supply to end users consumer product. Then the other half of the group are B2B solutions resellers. They probably don't have a retail store and they probably don't have an online model. They're solutions resellers that are moving towards managed services more and more as we know the market is going. So we serve these two areas in one community. And that's a key way that we drive the business forward, because if we're dealing with Microsoft, they want to sell us both of their products, aren't they? If we're dealing with Symantec, they want us to sell Norton as well as the enterprise products. So it allows us to have relationships with some of the vendors, but also hit both categories, both as a retailer and as a B2B reseller.
That must also come with its challenges as well. So you've got a room full of sort of 50, 60 mixed resellers here today, some doing retail, some doing IT solution and managed services. How do you make sure that you cater for the needs of everyone in the room?
So there's some things that will apply to any reseller or small business regardless. So closing talk that we had today was on how we respond to failure and mistakes when they happen. That applies to both areas, whether you're retailer or whether you're B2B. So what we do in the mini sessions that you experienced in the morning and in the breakout sessions that you experienced in the afternoon, we split both of those groups out into hitting the agenda at the areas of the business they want to look at. So today we were covering sales in the afternoon session, and when we were covering sales we were actually looking at the roles of the salesperson in the retail environment and looking at the role of the salesperson in the B2B solutions environment. So same topic, but delivered different content in a different way to serve the needs of those resellers.
And I actually sat in the sales session for B2B resellers, and I thought it was a phenomenal session. It was led by your colleague David. A lot of energy in the room, all the companies sharing in a real open and honest spirit about the successes they've had and the failures of taking on salespeople, lessons that can be learned, things like that. And I think that's when it really drove it home to me that this community was so much more than my preconceptions of it. That the members of the community are quite tight-knit and they are there to help each other succeed. Do the vendors that you engage with perceive your community in that same way, that it's a lot of members together trying to help one another grow as businesses?
We all know that business is driven forward, whether it's a high level or a low level, is driven by people and the partnerships that they have. So we find our role as a group is to enable those relationships. So yesterday you were at the networking event with us last night, and we had vendors engaged in that. And we invite our supply chain, so we invite our distribution partners, and we invite our vendors into that circle of trust, really. And so what we're wanting to do is build deep, meaningful relationships, because if the vendor and the distributor understand the needs of the reseller, and you can bring that to work at a point where they are all on page, that's where success comes from. But in a fast-moving environment that we are in, the market's changing so quickly. How can you do that when you've got 50-odd resellers from all of the UK and the Channel Islands, etc.? So what we do is we enable that by bringing them all into one place. So here we are in glorious Milton Keynes on a sunny day, but they've flown in from Gibraltar, Jersey, Guernsey. Being part of this community obligates you to attend, so you don't get an option of being able to say, "I'm sorry, look, the dog's unwell and I'm not going to come today." You're committed to the community, and that's what builds the deep, meaningful relationships both with vendors and with each other. That's the biggest one that you experience today. And then when there's good, meaningful relationships with people and you drive those deep, people get honest. And they get honest with their failings. I'm really, really struggling with this. Instead of what you find in relationships that are on the surface, is people will talk about, "Oh, that's great, I just secured a 48 grand deal this week," or whatever, and it stayed on that level, instead of where the real guts of relationship works is when we're sharing our challenges together and getting through them.
And it's so important, isn't it? The amount of people you and I have perhaps bumped in at networking events. How's business going? Yeah, it's brilliant. And then the next week you speak, and they've gone out of business because they're not honest enough. They don't have the relationship to say, really struggling at the moment. So I did notice a huge degree of honesty amongst your members, which was really refreshing. Let's talk about the community side of things. Communities are very difficult beasts to manage as a whole. So you've got your work cut out as managing director, managing this community. I definitely got the sense that the network group members almost manage themselves. But talk me through that process a little bit. You clearly go for quality as opposed to quantity in the number of members that you have. And do you have requirements for members coming in? You've already alluded to the fact that it's a commitment for people to turn up. What sort of things for anybody watching or listening to this today, what should they expect as requirements for joining the network group?
So absolutely, there's huge criteria that we're looking for in order to keep the model pure. You and I have learned some things about culture. Culture is something that you create. It doesn't happen. We've got to have a clear vision of the future that we want for an organisation. And if we don't create that vision for the future, then somebody else is creating that future for us, and it happens by default. So we take very seriously the type of culture that we're building here. And as we grow it, we need to grow it without losing the bits that work. So in order for that to work, first of all, we're looking for resellers that will work with one another in a collaborative way. So there's not many people that are actually sharers, Richard. You're a very open guy, and you speak openly about things that work and things that don't work for you. Not everybody's a sharer. So the first key criteria that we're looking for is, how does somebody feel about being in a room with other people sharing what they do in their business? In fact, we've had 2 new resellers join us today. They've been bowled over
Yes.
when they've been in the room and realised, man alive, we had a guy from Leatherhead share this morning all of his kind of strategy of what he's doing, and he couldn't believe that he's sharing that. But he's based in Dorset as his new reseller, so he doesn't mind. So one of the key criteria we're looking for is that you're a collaborator, but secondly, that you're based no more than 30 miles from an existing reseller.
Got it.
So we think that's enough for you to have a slight patch that because you will be the trusted reseller in that area. There may be some little crossover, but you're not bang next door. So we're looking for a key retailer and a key B2B reseller and a key geographic location. And then when it comes to governance that we're high on, I'm afraid to join this group you must be profitable in 3 of the last 5 years. We understand that businesses make investments sometimes that will allow them to dip underneath that for taxation and other purposes. We get that. but you need to demonstrate good profitability in 3 of the 5 years. And then if you're a retailer, you have to be turning over 800k a year or getting to there. So if you're innovative, we will help you through that process. And for a B2B reseller, you've got to be turning over 1.2 million or more. So believe it or not, that leaves me with, or us as a business, with a very, very small number of resellers between geographical area, the collaborative nature of that person, and the other criteria around governance, etc. It means that quite often resellers that want to join us don't. In fact, last year we turned down 168 applications of people that wanted to join us.
Wow, wow. So fairly high qualification criteria for resellers to join the group. What about the vendors? So vendors are a big part of the network group as well. Talk me through what you look for in a vendor and which vendors you've got on board at the moment.
So I can talk maybe not specifically about certain vendors by name, but some of them I've mentioned earlier in this conversation that you can't afford to avoid. But the strategy of the group is we need to give our customers choice, and we use what we call preferred vendor status. So anybody that's running a business of making their own choices as to why they sell whichever particular solution that they have for a vendor. So we say that when we put commercial arrangements in with, say, a security vendor, that the proposition for that security vendor representing the volume that's in our group. So across the resellers that we have at the moment, because we make the criteria high, so our largest reseller is just over 40 million. So across the whole estate of Network Group, we turn over just over 380 million in this small group of people that you've met here today. So we expect the vendor to put commercial terms in place that reflects that volume within the group. So we will talk to companies like Microsoft, etc. They will give us enhanced commercial terms that reflect that, and that's a name that we can ill afford to avoid. But when it comes to, say, I don't know, PC or tablet devices, obviously there's 2 or 3 brands that we can pick, and we would have, say, 2 preferred suppliers. So on laptop, we've got 2 preferred suppliers on that device at the moment, and then we negotiate good commercial terms that stand by themselves. So you, as a reseller, could turn around and purchase 1 or 2 of those brands to give your customer choice and say these are the ones that fit the criteria of our group. They will tend to be not on price, they will be on the overall proposition. So we make no bones in saying that on, say, corporate PC, that is Fujitsu and Lenovo, those 2 brands that we use because of their commitment to us. So if you're a reseller of ours, Richard, what we would say is we would want you to lead on the Fujitsu and Lenovo brand because it stacks up. Because you're getting better commercial pricing, you're getting support from the guys that you met last night who are senior account managers for these people, that wherever you fly in from, you can have a relationship with them and build a partnership and have a good plan with them, and you can take it forward. But if you wanted to sell another brand as well, then go sell it if you want to, but you'd be nuts based on the commercial pricing that you get from us on the other 2.
Yeah, makes sense. What about resellers? We've talked about a couple of the benefits they get from the group, the community, the relationship with vendors. Share some of the other benefits that you feel that resellers would get when they join the network group. So, how can you put a value on collaboration and learning? I mean, I spent 30 minutes with you last night discussing a few things that I'm just thinking, wow, you know, and you put that to work in your business. So I don't know how you value that benefit. Sure. It's very, very hard to do. In terms of marketing support that we do, and obviously in helping people go to market and enable that, that's very, very powerful. But there's a range of other services in terms of cloud services, infrastructure services that we provide as well as lots of regular business services, access to legal services in a cheap way, access to kind of direct debit clearing systems. So there's a lot of other services, but to be honest, they're not the main reason you would be part of this group. You would be part of this group in order for the collaboration and the learning, so that you can do more, better, faster, different. You would be part of this group so you can get access to the marketing that we do, and then the underlying commercial terms that help you compete against other people in the market. Those are the primary reasons. Everything else is a bonus. Now, the network group has been going for how long?
So it's been going now in 21st year, but it's a cooperative. So where you talked earlier, just something for me to mention, where you talked earlier about the engagement and they're bought into the organisation, we are a cooperative. So if you are a reseller from Birmingham and you wanted to come and join the group, you would join the group. There'd be a joining fee that you would pay, and there's a membership fee on a monthly basis. But after 3 months, what we would ask you to do is, if you like what you see and you want to stay within the group, we would ask you to purchase shares within the company. So if you have a look at NBG Limited online, Company's House, you will see that it's a company with a list of shareholders who are the resellers. So what that does is gives us ownership. So the way our structure is driven is I drive the mandate of the resellers. So the reseller's mandate is driven from feedback and interaction over what we want to be looking at. So for example, the sales event that you were at this afternoon, that's been driven from a need from the resellers that say this is what we want. That's been taken into the exec. There's obviously lots of topics that people have. The exec give direction to us as, in terms of the management team, in terms of this is what we want, then we go away and create the content and you experience it this afternoon. So that's the way it's driven. So that cooperative nature, that you're not a victim to some other person's agenda, because lots of vendor partner programs are like that. I mean, they change every 10 minutes, don't they? Yeah. So being part of a community that you can decide what the future looks like, that's just golden, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I can see why so many of your members are so very passionate about it.
That's right.
I said I was blown away by the amount of passion, the engagement here, and so all the pieces sort of fit into place when you explain exactly the way the community works.
Indeed.
Now, you've been MD of Network Group for 4 years now?
Since 2010 in February, yeah.
What have you seen change within the Network Group and the wider IT industry in that time?
Massive.
Just a small question there, for it.
Okay, yeah, so staying away from BYOD and all of this kind of stuff. I think, okay, let's cut to the chase. What is the real challenge? We can talk around a lot of the effects that are out there, but you know, we've just come through one of the harshest downturns that we've experienced ever. So I think what I've seen happen in the group over the last 4 years has been us moving from being an organisation to actually being a community. And you know, where you want to back each other, where you want to support each other, where you want to work together, relationships like that are really, really powerful. I have them in my life, you have them in yours as well, with the people that are around us. So I think the biggest change that I've seen in these people getting together, watching each other's backs, supporting each other, because some of the resellers have gone through challenging times. I've seen one reseller go down and spend time with another, and in fact I think at the end of the meeting today you saw an announcement being made for stag do for one of our younger partners here. It was going on, we've got half the resellers going away to Leeds on a stag do. That's real meaningful relationship. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen, aside of all the commercial stuff, is more meaningful relationships, not in a fluffy, kind of way, but in a real, we're in the trenches together. And I think for us, strength in numbers is our strap line. And I've seen our numbers grow, but I've seen the strength of what we are as a group get far, far stronger and deeper.
And fairly clear to see, just from attending for a short period of time. Yeah. Now, going forward with the group, what do you see as the evolution of the group? Where do you see the group moving forward? And how are you going to adapt to the changes in the wider IT industry?
Yeah, well, it moves quick, doesn't it?
It does,
Yeah. So we've seen a lot of, so back to some BI work, bring your own device, managed print services, and the whole managed services wrap. I did an article recently in terms of the way we see the market in the B2B space going towards devices, so MDS, managed device services, that we think that more and more people will actually want a wrap. So they will want the desktop PC or the server, they want the whole thing wrapped up with AV, the managed service, security, everything in one, both for mobile and for all of these devices. Okay, there might be some BYOD element on the more mobile end of it, but BYOD is not so much on corporate desktop and server and everything, but I've never seen a BYOD server yet. So we see the market working that way, and we see more and more of the challenge in the cloud piece of the vendors wanting to hold those relationships. And I think I say with caution again to all the vendors, particularly to some of the big ones at this moment that are looking in the security space and in the application space, looking to take these businesses direct. At Churchill, I think it was said that we're a nation of shopkeepers, I think, here in the UK. The SMB channel here in the UK is very, very strong, and I think the vendors will do themselves no end of harm if they continue on those journeys here in the UK. For the US it might work, for other places in Europe. So I think those are the changes that we are navigating. First of all, that it moves quickly and we've got to enable and equip our resellers. And secondly, I think the other thing that I'm challenged with personally and with the executive board is, as we get bigger as a group, there are more relationships. And when a community gets larger, the dynamics change. So, when we're crossing from, 50 to, we've gone from 30 to 50 to 70 to wherever we get to, the board has a view to get to 100, and we think that the vision of wherever you live in the UK, you'll be no more than 35 miles away from a NG IT reseller will be fulfilled. So for us to do that, to manage a group twice the size, I said to you yesterday, leading leaders is like herding cats. And the challenges of a group twice the size is going to be fun, but I'm up for it.
Clearly you're up for it, and I've no doubt you're going to do really well with it, to be honest. So thanks for your time today, Philip. For anybody watching or listening today who thinks network group sounds like a good idea and might be able to help their business, how would they reach out to you? How would they get in touch? So
there's several ways. They can go and visit the NBG website at nbg.co.uk. We've also got Facebook presence and Twitter presence. Myself, I tweet about pretty much everything in life, so at Philip M. If you wanted to follow me, and I'm keen to take any engagement whatsoever, a phone call, a voicemail, whatever, however somebody wants to engage. If you're an IT reseller out there and you find it challenging, then come and join a pile of people that are really strong, working together, and we can add value to one another, because you have got some of the answers for our resellers to help them go forward, and equally they might be able to help you with some of the challenges that you're having as well. So I would just love it, if there's good quality resellers that you fulfill our criteria, if you would just drop me a line and get in touch, as long as you can stand my Welsh accent.
Well, Philip, it's been a genuine pleasure spending time with you and your community today, so I wish you all the best, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks for joining me again on TubbTalk, and if you enjoyed this episode, perhaps you could do me a favour and share it with your peers and colleagues, anyone you think would get value from it. And don't forget, you can find me at www.tubblog.co.uk, on Twitter at Tubblog, and on Google+. If you've got any feedback on the podcast or anyone you particularly like to hear from in the MSP community, just let me know.